Tarps Off Sports.
How is it going? I am your host, Jack Gotzel. I'm here with Frank. We're starting up the Tarps Off UK MMA show. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm good, man. Absolutely buzzing to be on, first episode. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Pretty exciting stuff. And speaking of exciting stuff, we got Paddy Pimblett. Looks like he'll be making his UFC debut. It's kind of a rumor right now, but both fighters have verbally agreed. So Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's a good fight. Takes him straight into sort of the top 25, I would say, of UFC's featherweight division. Tough test, Jared Gordon's been around for a while. He's got, nearly 20 fights on his record, and against some relatively high-level competition. So it's a good litmus test for Paddy. And it will not be an easy contest by any way. Like, you saw Paddy for Davide Martinez last fight. He hasn't got any wins of note on his record. And Paddy went through him like you might think he would. But, Jared, if that fight is booked, that's not going to be an easy fight by any means.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, we saw the rise of Conor McGregor. People are kind of thinking Paddy might be the next big thing in UK MMA, going from Cage Warriors to the UFC, kind of like Conor did. Paddy never got that second belt, but he was going for it for a little bit. He did have the featherweight strap, kind of like Conor McGregor. Do you see him reaching that same pinnacle of hype as Conor McGregor, or do you think we need to push the brakes a little bit on Paddy Pimblett?
I mean, he can talk the talk. He can talk just as well as Conor did. And he doesn't fight like Conor. That's the big thing. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. But he's as exciting a jiu-jitsu fighter as you could watch. The guy's got 2 flying triangles, I believe it is, as well as a bunch of arm bars, Renee Kachok. He's a really explosive grappler. You saw his last fight, like I mentioned before, against Martinez, and the guy steps in, he throws a high kick into a flying knee, it throws Martinez and gets the Renee Kachok. So it's not going to be exactly the same as McGregor, and there is a lot of hard competition at 145 pounds. But I think he could. He chose not to enter the UFC when he was the featherweight champion back when he was 21. He took that time. He's worked on his stand-up game. He's a well-rounded fighter now, and I think he could do well. He could do well, especially at 145 pounds. I think if he'd have moved straight into lightweight, that would have been a lot harder for him. But at featherweight, Paddy the Baddy. Watch out for that name.
Yeah, I actually think Paddy will go on a bit of a run here at 145, and I think his skills on the mic will definitely help him. And another guy that's always been, kind of tangled in with Paddy Pimblett is Brendan Longahan. And he got his first round knockout win on PFL 1 last week. What do we think of the future of Brendan Longahan? And can we dive into that controversy that we had there on the Contender Series with Dana White?
That has got to be one of the worst decisions made on the Contender Series. Full stop. He won the fight. He beat Bill Algeo, who, bear in mind, is in the UFC now. Dana says because Brendan shot for a takedown in the last the dying minutes of the fight, that's not the sort of killer instinct that he wants. Brendan Loughnane is a killer. We all saw his fight against Shayman Moraes last Friday. Moraes is a UFC veteran and a super skilled striker. He's a striker. That's where he excels. And also he excels in the first round. When did Loughnane finish him? In the first round, I think. Is it first round? Yeah.
Yeah, it was first round.
Yeah, exactly. Dana has messed up bad because also when he was on the Contender Series, you had people like Tyson Fury messaging him, being tune in tonight, Dana White Contender Series, Brendan Loughnane's fighting. Why Dana didn't sign him, I don't understand. But look, he's going to carve his way through the PFL right now. I don't know if there's anyone in that division that can stop him, to be honest.
We think he's going to be the champion. I mean, I said it after the fight originally. We had the live stream, and I was a little unsure whether he could win the championship. I thought he would be in that playoff. I thought he'd be in the mix. But after that first fight, I really think he could be the champion there in PFL.
Yeah, definitely possible. The thing is with him, he's a pressure fighter. So if someone allows him to start pressuring him, you see Moraes when he first comes in, he almost wants to go toe to toe with Loughnane, and at that point, that's where he's got the best chance. As soon as he starts backing off, as soon as Loughnane is able to start throwing those leg kicks, pressuring him against the cage, that's when his opponents fall apart. He did the exact same thing with both his previous fights in PFL as well. He didn't get the finishes in those, but they let him pressure him, and he basically chased them around the cage, leg kicked them, and pieced them apart over 3 rounds.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of that, he's kind of gotten this fake, thing to him after that Dana White Contender Series where people think he's a boring fighter. And I don't think that's true at all. I know that's probably not what goes around in the UK, but in the US, people now have stapled him as a boring fighter, and I just think it's so wrong. And it's only on that one fight. It's like, go watch the rest of his fights and try to tell me he's a boring fighter.
Yeah, 100%.
But do you think we ever see him in the UFC and maybe Brendan versus Paddy?
I wouldn't want to watch that. It's one UK fighter losing. But yeah, look, he's definitely good enough to be in the UFC. That is undeniable. He clinically defeated Algio on the Contender Series, and then Algio goes out and who was it he fought? Lamas, I think, and had a super competitive fight with Lamas. Like, and also then he's just gone and fought Shaman Moraes, who I think had a 3-2 record in the UFC. He's able to fight these super competitive high level fighters, and yeah, he's proved that, and I'm sure he's going to keep proving it as this PFL division continues.
Yeah, and it is fun. He is the leader right now at featherweight because he did pick up 6 points, 3 points for the first round knockout, 3 points for the win. But there were some other upsets on the PFL. Well, that wasn't really an upset, but we did have some upsets. Clay Collard defeated Anthony Pettis by decision. What did you think of that fight?
Oh man, I wrote a preview for Tarps Off for that fight, and just looking back, I completely went the Anthony Pettis route. I was certain Pettis has gone. He's on a 2-fight win streak. Wins over Cowboy Cerrone and Alex Morono. Got that sort of spinning wheel kick KO in his last fight, and been fighting super regularly. Clay Collard been out since 2019, I believe. He's been boxing, sure, but boxing is not MMA. And I was like, yeah, nah, Pettis is just going to run through this. And I couldn't have been more wrong. Collard looked incredible. Yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, to be honest, I thought the ref could have stepped in and stopped that fight earlier on when Pettis was really down and not defending himself, taking shots. But he got that vet leash and was able to stay in there. And then he almost finished Collard at the very end. It was nuts. He almost came back to pull off the victory, but Collard was able to stick it out and survive and pull off a ginormous upset, which was one of few on the card, because then we saw Marcin Held, Nathan Schultz. That went to decision. That was an exciting fight. And we had Bubba Jenkins defeat Lance Palmer, who is a 2-time champion. I know they have a wrestling rivalry back and forth. I thought Lance Palmer was going to win that for sure. I was shocked when Bubba Jenkins came and really out-wrestled Lance.
No, he really did. He took Lance's best area of mixed martial arts and outplayed him completely, almost like Valentina Shevchenko did the UFC to Jessica Andrade.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Bubba went in. It was absolutely mental. But yeah, both of them, they go in, they take the one area that this person prides their sort of fighting prowess in, and puts on an absolute clinic. Like Bubba Jenkins looked incredible. I kept thinking, I was watching the fight thinking, okay, this is going to be the round where Lance Palmer steps up a notch and starts dominating the fight. Got to the second round finished. I was like, okay, 2 rounds up. Nah, Lance Palmer, he's going to pull something through. No, he just got essentially dominated. I think Jenkins got all 3 rounds. And yeah, incredible display. And he's going to be a real threat as well. That wrestling, that skill, high level wrestling could be a real threat to the rest of his division.
Yeah, I would love to see a rematch in that one because I think Lance comes in with a different game plan. I mean, he was gassed leaving that second round, and really, I don't think had much in the tank for that third round. But in a rematch, I'd love to see that. I think Lance's wrestling does come through, and I don't think he was the best Lance that night. But you got to tip your hat to Bubba Jenkins. I mean, he really came through. He could be one to watch in PFL. It's going to be crazy close in a lot of these divisions there in the PFL scene. And this week we got Rory McDonald back in action on PFL too.
Yeah. You love the Red King. He's had some of the best fights in UFC and some great fights in Bellator as well. But I'm sure age is slowly catching up with him now. I do worry the sort of injuries that he's received, of course, at the hands of Robbie Lawler, that infamous nose break. Oh, that it goes through me every time I watch it. But he's a veteran. He's very good at what he does. I think he's still training out at TriStar. And they consistently run out high level fighters who can go that 3 rounds, 5 rounds with ease. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting fight. To be honest, I'm mainly interested to see how good Rory looks. He's been out since 2019 as well now, so that's an extended layoff. I know he intended to be back last year, but obviously the world went to shit. So what can we do about that?
Pandemic.
It's an interesting one, and you've also got a couple of other UFC, former UFC fighters on there, I should say, and Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface, and Cesar Ferreira as well. Not a bad card, I'm really enjoying what PFL are doing at the moment.
Yeah, and it does keep you more interested that they have that playoff and regular season format because you are watching the points. There is motivation to finish the fight early. You do get 6 points if you finish it in the first round, 5 in the second, 4 in the third. And in decision, you get 3 points, and they do judge each round on like your overall score. So there's motivation to keep moving forward and keep the action going. I think it's a very clever idea. It's kind of like how, Bellator has the Grand Prix where the title moves on as the Grand Prix goes. And it's like the UFC, they're still doing this thing where it's like you make money fights, you make fights that make sense, you kind of go all over the place. And I kind of like to see what some of these other organizations are doing in forcing the best fighters to fight the best fighters. I think it's kind of fun, and maybe boxing should think of something like that.
Maybe. Yeah, it's I do really like it. These smaller promotions that are on the fringe of the UFC, I suppose. You've got obviously Bellator, PFL, One, I suppose maybe Ryzen, and then sort of below them is Cage Warriors. They all need things that make them stand out from the UFC. Obviously, the UFC has such a monopoly over the industry. And to be fair, I will say, this year, the UFC have done a grand job of the fights they're booking. I know some people weren't too happy about the Masvidal immediate rematch, but I mean, it was a great fight, so we can't be too harsh. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like it. It reminds me of like, English football, soccer to you guys. It's a season.
Yeah,
and it's I like it. Same with the Grand Prix for Bellator. It's a different type of interest you have in it, and also we should say, well, next week we got one of the biggest Bellator fights going, Yoel Romero and Anthony
Rumble Johnson there. Yeah, I'm pumped for that one.
That'll be a great one. We'll go into detail about that next week, but
absolutely. But we do have one other promotion, and I say one other promotion. We have One Championship. They put on an absolutely amazing card. If you missed that card, you missed out. John Lineker in the main event knocked out Troy Worthen. He could be on the way for a title shot, and that was a fight that honestly, it was almost like watching a train crash. Lineker's hands were moving so fast. You could see that Troy Worthen, like, he tried to take him down early. It didn't work. And it was like, he's got to shoot again. We're screaming shoot just because we want to see him like survive, because Lineker's hands are moving so fast. You knew you were going to get a vicious knockout. And then finally it happened. And boy, it was vicious. John Lineker, they call him Hands of Stone for a reason.
I mean, they call him Hands of Stone, but the man's got a chin of stone. He was going in there, throwing like combination body hooks, leaving his chin in the air, not caring if Worthen threw a strike back. And yeah, he looked incredible. He looked unstoppable. I still don't understand why the UFC let him go over to one. To be honest, I like 4 losses, 12 wins he had for the UFC, and no consecutive losses at all. That is ridiculous. But he could do good things at one. I would not be surprised if we see him holding their belt, yeah, by the end of 2021.
I think he could get a title shot next, in all reality. After, I mean, he was the #1 contender. Absolute vicious knockout. Was that round 1 or round 2? I think that was round 1, right?
Yeah, end of round 1.
End of round 1, yeah. So I mean, how do you keep him out? And then another guy that could be getting a title shot is Wakamatsu. He defeated McLaren, and now he could be getting a title shot. Although I thought this one was a little bit more controversial than most people saw it. I thought it was a pretty close fight.
Yeah, I agree. It was close. But I do rate Wakamatsu incredibly highly. I think one of the main reasons it was so close is because McLaren is so durable. If you look at him in his previous fights, he can take so much punishment. Against Striegel, I think Mark Striegel is his name. He took like basically a step-in elbow to the jaw, got dropped, got soccer kicked in the head, and carried on, came back, and the next round he finished him via rear naked choke. McLaren is so durable, it's incredible, and I think he still could have a really good future at one. I think he's a great talent, but I am incredibly high on Wakamatsu right now.
Oh,
just
yeah,
his move. Go on.
Yeah, well, Wakamatsu, I mean, he was able to defend the ground game of McLaren so well. McLaren's such a good grappler, and Wakamatsu just had an answer for everything. It's like he's going to be able to get that fight back to stand up, but can he do it against a Marias or a Johnson? Like, that's going to be the challenge, because those guys are like video game characters when it comes to fighting. It's like they're playing like the MMA video game, and they're the only ones that know the buttons.
He fought Demetrius Johnson, I think, previously, and came quite close. He lost.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was him who fought Johnson. But he's young, isn't he? I think he's still early 20s. So I think, if he carries on progressing the way that he is, and if they keep matching up with good competition, I think McLaren's a great fight for him to do, for him to prepare to, and for him to go through, having to get past that adversity of someone who can't just knock out with his bullet of a right hand. It is great, and I think he could be a force to be reckoned with in the future.
I think those are the 2 fights to make next are Wakamatsu versus Marias there, and then McLaren versus Mighty Mouse. I think that'd be a perfect little not tournament, not like a Grand Prix style tournament, but like a tournament not saying it's a tournament. Yeah. And really figure out what the pecking order is in that division. And then we had let's see. Oh, we had Akrayoun upset Gafarov, which I was stunned by. I thought Gafarov was going to come out and win that fight easily, but I have to admit I didn't know a whole lot about Akrayoun, and now he's going to fight Eddie Alvarez this week on one.
Yeah, I did a bit of research, freelance research on Ok beforehand, so I watched a bunch of his fights for. He'd been around like the Korean circuit quite a bit, and I thought he looked good. Like, he's a rangy striker, and you saw that he's got vicious low kicks and quite a good clinch game. But then I was looking at these guys, and I was like, I don't know a single name on here. And I was looking at Gafarov, and I was like, this man is a former champion. He's a Dagestani wrestler. you know, you can have a strong clinch game, but it won't make a difference if you fight one of those Dagestani guys most of the time. But Ok looked great. I thought he looked really, really impressive for someone who's not fought on any shows outside the regionals. I thought he looked really impressive. But I think it's a bit rough to send him against the Underground King only a week after going 3 rounds with the former featherweight champion.
Yeah, so he's going to have a former champion and a former champion in his first 2 fights for one. I mean, but if he beats Eddie Alvarez, he's going to be in that title conversation right away. I mean, he's probably one more fight after, if he were to beat Eddie Alvarez, he's probably got one more fight and then a title shot. I mean, he's going through murder's row.
He might even get it off Alvarez, like, genuinely.
Well, the thing is, I do know Christian Lee is taking time because he just had a kid. So I think he's going to take some time off. So Ok might have to go pick up one more win after Eddie. But I mean, if either of these guys, and especially Eddie should take some time off too. If he's able to get a huge knockout and get that title shot, he shouldn't take another fight. He should wait for Christian Lee. I mean, we all know what Eddie's trying to achieve. He was a Bellator champion. He was a UFC champion. Now he's going for the hat trick and trying to get all 3 major promotions. No fighter's ever done it. Ben Askren tried. We all know how that ended. Poor Ben Askren as of late. But Eddie, I mean, if he can achieve that, that's just greatness. And that makes him, if he's not already a legend, which I think he is, that would cement it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I fully expect Eddie to go out there and starch Ok. As good as a fighter Ok is, and as much as he like impressed me against Gafarov, you can't bet against the Underground King Alvarez. And I fully yeah, I see him running through Ok, but Christian Lee is such a beast of a fighter. Still only 22, and the man's just tearing through his division. I
don't know if anyone on the planet can beat Christian Lee. And I mean like planet, like UFC, Bellator, any of them. I mean, Christian Lee's 22 years old. Look what he did to Nasiukin.
Well, I mean, the thing is, right, he's a welterweight, essentially, isn't he? He's a lightweight champion, but One's weight divisions are all 1 up. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, but so One also has like a rehydration thing. So if he were to fight in the UFC, he would probably fight at lightweight.
Okay, so I don't think he beats Habib.
No. Okay, well, retired, I'm talking about Habib retired.
Well, you say that. Don't count out my boy Chucky Olives, Charles Oliveira. He's going to be lightweight champion by the end of the year.
Oh, I don't know. I got Chandler in that fight.
No.
Oh, that'll be a fun one.
That will be a fun one. No, I think Oliveira is just too good. He's such a well-rounded fighter, and you know, from he used to be just a complete one-trick pony, and now he really is the all-encompassing mixed martial artist. I still think Michael Chandler is a bit not linear, but you know, he has sort of 2 big things going for him, and that's power and wrestling. He's very good at them both, but he is getting on a bit. I don't know. It's a fun one. And
yeah, also, I mean, no one thought he was going to knock out Dan Hooker like that, including myself. I thought Chandler was. I had Chandler winning by wrestling, and then he knocks him out in the first round. I didn't even see that coming in. I picked Chandler, but we got some more 1 action. We have Aoki versus Foyang. These are 2 legends going at it. This is the trilogy, I believe. The last 2 fights were both for the belt. Now they're both more on the back 9 of their career. But Aoki has impressed lately. I think he's on a 3 or 4 fight win streak. Foyang has had a tough go of things recently. Is this a must win for Foyang to like keep his career going? And I mean, both guys, this has to be their last shot at the belt if they're going to make a run for it.
Yeah, you got to think so. It's a great fight, to be honest. I was going back and watching a bunch of Foyang's fights earlier today, and the man is just so fun to watch. He just is, just like a mini sort of tornado, like spin kicks, wheel kicks, spinning back fists. He just doesn't stop. And then you've got Aoki, who's just a grappling phenom. The amount of submissions on his record is ridiculous. So
29.
Jeez, that's wild. I mean, well, you gosh got to think, like, if it stays on the feet, Foleyang's got the advantage. If it goes to the ground, Aoki's gonna do his thing. I don't know how to call it, but I'm really looking forward to watching it.
And Chatria said that he eventually, before their careers are over, wants to make that rematch between Eddie Alvarez and Aoki. That doesn't really do it for me. And I mean, I heard Eddie Alvarez talk about it, how he's not really interested in it because Aoki beat him when he was a kid, and then he came back with a much more well-rounded game, and it wasn't even a close fight. I don't think it would be a close fight now. Does that fight interest you at all, or I'm passing on that one?
Yeah, no, not at all. I think if they go down that route, they start to fall into like the pitfalls that Bellator started entering a few years ago when they started trying making these like legend fights between I don't want to say washed up, but half the time they were people who were past their prime. And that really gave Bellator a bad reputation at times. And they've really upped their game lately, Bellator have been great to watch recently, but there was a period where it was just all these veteran fights, these they're like, oh, the rematch you always wanted to see. Yeah, I wanted to see it when they're in their prime, not when they're both like 42 with beer bellies. Yeah. So no, I'm not interested in that fight at all. I just want to see Eddie Alvarez versus Christian Lee.
I also want to see that, and I want to see it versus Lapicus. I mean, we saw it, but not really. It was a quick disqualification. I would like to see Eddie run that one back. If Eddie does come out victorious and they are waiting for Christian Lee, maybe that could be a fight that would interest me for who gets the title shot at Christian Lee. But we'll see. And the main event is, oh my God, the trash talk leading up to this from Ritter has been unreal. Ong La versus Day Ritter. This is just a crazy storyline. This feels like almost like a Rocky movie. So Ritter took the belt from Ong La in the middleweight division. And now, I mean, Ong La moves up to light heavyweight. He's got the belt there. He's expecting to fight this guy. Then bang, on short notice, he pulls out. And who steps in? The guy that took his belt at middleweight is coming up to light heavyweight to try to take his belt. And he's talking smack in the pre-fight press conferences. This one is a thriller. I would not miss this for the world.
No, it's a great fight. I've just finished our Tarps Off preview for it today. So go check that out on Tarps Off MMA. It's a great fight. It's interesting as well because like their first fight when De Ridder took the middleweight title back in 2020, De Ridder dominated. As soon as the fight hit the mat, De Ridder just got the back, and Sang was defending it okay for a bit, but he just couldn't get out of that back position, and eventually De Ridder sinks in the rear naked choke, and he really could not have been any more clinical. Like, he had a game plan, he went out and he did it. I don't know, the interesting factors of this one, you've got obviously it's short notice, so we don't know how in shape De Ridder is, and then I'd say also the fact that it's at light heavyweight. You got to wonder. So I think one of the big factors in that middleweight fight is De Ridder just looks stronger. Like, physically, he was stronger than like it was like a body lock takedown where he just essentially picked and Sang up and threw him. And then once he was on the ground, there was nothing and Sang could do. So I don't know. I'm interested to see if there's a bit of a bit more equality in the strength department, and also just and Sang is such a fun fighter to watch. If he's able to get his stand-up game going, the kicks and the strikes, he's got so much power in his hands and his legs. It's a thrilling fight. It really is. I know Is it Unla or Unsung? And
Ong La and Sung.
Unla.
That's his full name.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's currently the underdog, but it really is one of those that could go either way. So yeah, don't want to miss
And
out.
honestly, the fireworks and the press conferences before this were just unreal. De Ritter just saying that there's no way that he could trade enough. There's nothing he can do to beat him. He'll always beat him. He wouldn't even call it a rivalry because he's like, in a rivalry, the other guy has to be able to beat you. He can't beat me. And then Ong La just came in and wasn't fazed by it at all. Just says he's been focusing on different things and working his full game as a mixed martial artist, not really preparing for one single fighter, but improving himself. We'll see. I mean, that's going to be an epic, epic match. And to end it, we do have a UFC card this Saturday. So what is your favorite fight that you're looking forward to seeing on this one?
It's the people's main event. Cub Swanson, Giga Chikadze. I believe the co-main event. It is such a good fight. Giga has just tore through the featherweight division in 2020, almost come out of nowhere and just torn through the division. He's got this amazing striking style. I think he's like a multiple-time karate champion, and he just looks amazing every time he steps in the octagon. There was like a sort of lack of finishes initially. I think he's coming off a finish most recently. Yeah, he just looks like an absolute monster. And then everyone knows Cub Swanson. The man's like a legend of the game. He's, I don't even know how many fights into his career at the moment, but he's looked great. And then last fight out, who was it against?
Cub Swanson has 38 fights under his belt.
Jeez. Yeah. To be fair, I was looking at pictures of him when he first started MMA and how he looks now. He's like a completely different man. But yeah, it's a banger of a fight. I'm sure it'll go down on the feet. And I mean, I see Chikadze winning. I think he really is like a major prospect right now. And also, what's even more interesting, we've just had Zabit and Jeremy Stevens taken out of the featherweight rankings. And then that has progressed Chikadze and Swanson both into 14th and 15th place, respectively. So it's something like up the ante now. These guys, a winner is going to progress up into that, top 10 potentially. So yeah, awesome fight.
Absolutely, that's a good one to look forward to. And then the week after that, we got TJ Dillashaw versus the Corey Sandhagen. So that should be a good one as well. But that's probably all the time we have. The Jake Shields podcast is coming on the 5th, so make sure you don't miss that. We will be back next week for another episode. Thank you for tuning in, and that's going to be it. Bang.